to the street. Where she stopped, the sign read, Madam, that's like a French type of deal. It would be Mrs. in English. Mrs. Sofroni, hair goods of all kinds. 1/8 up, Della ran and collected herself, panting. Madam, large, too white, chilly, hardly looked the Sofroni. Will you buy my hair? Asked Della. I buy hair, said Madam. Take your coat. It should be your. That's like an old English spelling. Take your hat off and let's have a sight at the looks of it. Down rippled the brown cascade. $20, said Madam, lifting the mass with a practiced hand. Give it to me quick, said Della. And oh, the next 2 hours tripped by on rosy wings. Forget the hashed metaphor. She was ransacking the stores for Jim's present. She found it at last. It surely had been made for Jim and no one else. There was no other like it in any of the stores, and she had turned all of them inside out. It was a platinum fob chain, simple and chaste in design, properly proclaiming its value by substance alone and not by meretricious ornament, as all good things should do. It was even worthy of the watch. As soon as she saw it, she knew it must be Jim's. It was like him, quietness and value. The description applied to both. $21 they took from her for it, and she hurried home with 78 cents. With that chain on his watch, Jim might be properly anxious about the time in any company. Grand as the watch was, he sometimes looked at it on the sly on account of the old leather strap that he used in place of a chain. When Della reached home, her intoxication gave way a little to prudence and reason. She got out her curling irons and lighted the gas and went to work repairing the ravages made by generosity added to love, which is always a tremendous task, dear friends, a mammoth task. Within 40 minutes, her head was covered with tiny, close-lying curls, which made her look wonderfully like a truant schoolboy. She looked at her reflection in the mirror long, carefully, and critically. If Jim doesn't kill me, she said to herself, before he takes a second look at me, he'll say I look like a Coney Island chorus girl. But what if I do? Oh, but what could I do? Oh, what could I do with $1.87? At 7 o'clock, the coffee was made, and the frying pan was on the back of the stove, hot and ready to cook the chops. Jim was never late. Della doubled the fob chain in her hand and sat on the corner of the table near the door that he always entered. Then she heard his step on the stair, away down on the first flight, and she turned white for just a moment. She had a habit of saying little silent prayers about the simplest everyday things, and now she whispered, Please God, make him think I am still pretty. The door opened, and Jim stepped in and closed it. He looked thin and very serious. Poor fellow, he was only 22, and to be burdened with a family. He needed a new overcoat and was without gloves. Jim stepped inside the door, as immovable as a setter at the scent of quail. His eyes were fixed upon Della, and there was an expression in them that she could not read, and it terrified her. It was not anger, nor surprise, nor disapproval, nor horror, nor any of the sentiments that she had been prepared for. He simply stared at her fixedly with that peculiar expression on his face. Della wriggled off the table and went for him. Jim, darling, she cried, don't look at me that way. I had my hair cut off and sold it because I couldn't have lived through Christmas without giving you a present. It'll grow out again. You won't mind, will you? I just had to do it. My hair grows awfully fast. Say Merry Christmas, Jim, and let's be happy. You don't know what a beautiful, nice gift I've got for you. You've cut off your hair? Asked Jim laboriously, as if he had not arrived at that patent fact yet, even after the hardest mental labor. Cut it off and sold it, said Della. Don't you like me just as well, anyhow? I'm me without my hair, ain't I? Jim looked about the room curiously. You say your hair is gone? He said with an air almost of idiocy. You needn't look for it, said Della. It's sold, I tell you. Sold and gone, too. It's Christmas Eve, boy. Be good to me, for it went for you. Maybe the hairs of my head were numbered, she went on with a sudden serious sweetness, but nobody could ever count my love for you. Shall I put the chops on, Jim? Out of his trance, Jim seemed quickly to wake. He enfolded his Della, For 10 seconds, let us regard with discreet scrutiny some inconsequential object in the other direction. $8 a week or $1 million a year, what is the difference? A mathematician or a wit would give you the wrong answer. The Magi brought valuable gifts, but that was not among them. This dark assertion will be illuminated later on. Jim drew a package from his overcoat pocket and threw it upon the table. Don't make any mistake, Fidel, he said about me. I don't think there's anything in the way of a haircut or a shave or a shampoo that could make me like my girl any less. But if you'll unwrap that package, you'll see why you had me going a while at first. White fingers and Nimble tore at the string and paper. And then an ecstatic scream of joy. And then, alas, a quick feminine change to hysterical tears and wails, necessitating the immediate employment of all the comforting powers of the Lord of the Flat. For there lay the combs, a set of combs side and back that Della had worshipped for long in a Broadway window. Beautiful combs, pure tortoiseshell, with jeweled brims, just the shade to wear in the beautiful vanished hair. They were expensive combs, she knew, and her heart had simply craved and yearned over them without the least hope of possession. And now they were hers, but the tresses that should have adorned the coveted ornaments were gone. But she hugged them to her bosom, and at length she was able to look up with dim eyes and say, and to smile and say, my hair grows so fast, Jim. And then Della leaped up like a little singed cat and cried, oh! Jim had not yet seen his beautiful present. She held it out to him eagerly upon her open palm. The dull, precious metal seemed to flash with a reflection of her bright and ardent spirit. Isn't it a dandy, Jim? I hunted all over town to find it. You'll have to look at the time 100 times a day now. Give me your watch. I want to see how it looks on it. Instead of obeying, Jim tumbled down on the couch and put his hands under the back of his head and smiled. Dell, he said, let's put our Christmas presents away and keep them a while. They're too nice to use at present. I sold the watch to get the money to buy your combs, and now you suppose you put the chops on. The Magi, as you know, were wise men, wonderfully wise men, who brought gifts to the babe in the manger. They invented the art of giving Christmas presents, being wise. Excuse me. Their gifts were no doubt wise ones, possibly bearing the privilege of exchange in case of duplication. And here I have lamely related to you the uneventful chronicle of two foolish children in a flat who most unwisely sacrificed for each other the greatest treasures of their house. But in a last word to the wise of these days, let it be said that of all who give gifts, these two were the wisest. Of all who give and receive gifts, such as they are the wisest. Everywhere, they are the wisest. They are the Magi. Okay, that was very long. I didn't realize it was that long. So thank you for your patience. I love that story. Sorry it was so long, but we'll go ahead and get started on the vocabulary. So we'll reread this first paragraph to remind ourselves, and then any questions that you have. There's a couple words in here I had to look up, so I might need to look up a couple. But any words in here that are confusing, sentence structure, how it could be used elsewhere, etc. Okay. $1.87, that was all, and 60 cents of it was in pennies. Pennies saved 1 and 2 at a time by bulldozing the grocer and the vegetable man and the butcher until one's cheeks burned with the silent imputation of parsimony that such close dealing implied. 3 times Della counted it, $1.87, and the next day would be Christmas. Okay, are there any questions about words, sentences, etc.? You can just unmute. You're welcome to also raise your hand.
Teacher, bulldozing.
Yes. So typically bulldozing is like construction truck. If you can like Google a picture of a bulldozer, it's like a big giant truck that like pushes dirt and stuff out of the way. So that it's referring to that concept of pushing something out of the way. In this context, bulldozing the grocer, the person who sells groceries, means that like you're pressuring him, forcing him, you're sort of pushing him out of the way in this sense of trying to get the cheapest items possible, haggle or barter for the cheapest possible items because she didn't have enough money to pay for everything. So kind of forcing him to do her own thing, right? Just like the bulldozer pushes the dirt away, forcing someone to do what you want. bulldozing them. What else?
Hello, teacher. Some imputation or parsimony is
Yes. This one's the one that I had to look up. I was reading it to my sister. I was like, what in the world is imputation of parsimony? So I'll look it up again so I can give an actual definition. Contextually, and what it does mean, but I'll look up the definition, is like the like embarrassment of having to like find the cheapest things and haggle with people because you don't have enough money to buy what you need. But I will look up the actual definition. It means like being stingy or not having enough money, and it has to do with like that embarrassment. So one cheek's burned means like you blush when you're embarrassed, right? And so it's saying like she's having to deal with embarrassment of this being stingy with her money, not paying the proper amount, that her having to haggle down and barter, or not barter, but like argue about the cost implies or means, right? So she's embarrassed that she doesn't have enough money. Imputation of parsimony is not a common phrase because this was written a while ago. Close dealing means same thing, right? That you are stingy with your money. You're not giving it away. You don't have enough money to like just be generous with it. Any other questions? Okay, we'll move to the next paragraph. There was clearly nothing left to do but flop down on the shabby little couch and howl. So Della did it, which instigates the moral reflection that life is made up of sobs, sniffles, and smiles, with sniffles predominating. Any questions from this paragraph?
Yes, sir. So what's the meaning of flop down?
Good. So imagine someone standing and then like falling upon the couch. So to flop means to just like throw something down or to just like drop down. Yeah, so you can use it in any context where you're just like dropping, right? The child flopped to the floor.
Thank you for clarifying.
Any others? Yes, Raymond, what's your question, dear? Raymond, do you have a question? Instigates. To instigate means to, let me think how to describe this. Oh, you guys. To begin. So here's an example. I instigated an argument, right? I started an argument, or I instigated the soccer game, right? I began the soccer game. Usually, yeah, it's like to begin or cause to happen. I instigated reflection, right? Whatever, or this happened, right? Of her falling down and crying, instigated or caused her to think about what is the meaning of life. So it's to cause to happen, to make happen. Good question. Any others?
Sure. Sniffle predomination.
Which one?
Sniffle predomination.
Yes. So sniffles is like when you cry and you have to like sort of like breathe in. That's like sniffling. And then predominating means like dominate means like the most or over everything. And so predominating, it just means that, right, in this context, life is made up of sobs and sniffles, right? Crying and smiles, with the crying, the sniffles predominating, or there's more crying than there is smiling in life, in this person's opinion, right? And so it just means that there's more of that thing. So you could say, the predominant food was whatever food was the most at the table. Predominant is just like the most of something. Any others? Alrighty. Let's move to this next one. We'll just do this paragraph here. While the mistress of the home is gradually subsiding from the first stage to the second, take a look at the home. A furnished flat at $8 per week. It did not exactly beg her description, but it certainly had that word on the lookout for the Mendencancy, I assume, squad. I don't know what that